Yo, what's the word, boys? Welcome back. UFC 310 went down last night, so let's recap the four main fights on the card. This is going to be a pretty uncut video, just me yapping my fresh thoughts on the card. We'll talk about Pantoja versus Asakura, Rakhmonov Garry, Gane Volkov, and then we'll talk about Aljamain Sterling versus Movsar Evloev. Like, subscribe, do all that. Help me get to 5,000 subscribers. Everybody click the follow button. Let's start off with the main event. Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Asakura. Alexandre Pantoja wins by second round submission. There's not many talking points with this fight because it didn't really last that long. But Pantoja showed that there are levels to this game. Kai Asakura was not ready. I picked Kai Asakura. I thought stylistically he would give a lot of problems to Alexandre Pantoja, but Pantoja was not about to lose to a guy making his UFC debut. Absolutely not. Pantoja's striking even looked pretty damn solid in this fight. Kai Asakura was throwing a bunch of crazy strikes, knees, and all that, like he normally would, but Pantoja was ready for it. His chain wrestling and grappling is top 3 in the UFC, in my opinion, and he found the back, and he locked in the rear naked choke in the second round. Pantoja, man, this dude is incredible. He's the second best flyweight, in UFC history. This is his third, maybe even fourth title defense. Don't quote me on that, but he is a dominant champion, man. He is a dominant champion. He is lapping the division. He already beat Brandon Moreno 3 times. He's beaten Royval and a bunch of other guys. I'm not really too sure whether UFC goes next. I'm thinking maybe Kai Kara-France or Brandon Royval. I'd much rather the Kai Kara-France fight because it is somewhat fresh, even though they fought way, way back. But Pantoja, man, this guy is really, really good, and he's getting disrespected heavily in the pound-for-pound rankings. I think coming into this fight, he was number 12, and he's maybe tied for the most title defenses in the UFC. The fact that he was 12 on the pound-for-pound rankings is insane. He should be, at minimum, top 5 in my opinion, but Pantoja continues to prove people wrong, continue to prove he is by far at this point the best flyweight on the planet. And in terms of Kai Asakura, he's still a really good fighter, but he just wasn't ready for Pantoja just yet. His UFC debut, that's a tough fight, man. That is a really tough fight. I want to see him get a win when he returns. Maybe you give him an older guy, maybe a veteran, maybe a guy like Alex Perez, and then you could really look for him to fight the top of the division once again, because there are a bunch of fun fights for Asakura. He's a big star in Japan. The UFC knows he's a big asset. That's why they threw him into the title fight, but maybe you give him a lower ranked guy. I said Alex Perez, that's solid. Maybe he wins that, gets more comfortable in the UFC, the jitters kind of go away, and then you could give him a Manel Kape in the trilogy, a Kai Kara-France, a Brandon Royval, Brandon Moreno, and then maybe if some crazy shit happens, he fights Alexandre Pantoja once more. But overall, not that many talking points with regards to this fight. Pantoja just proves he's the best flyweight on the planet. Next up, the co-main event, Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Machado Garry. Shavkat wins by decision. This main card was pretty crappy, man. I'm going to be completely honest. Not too many exciting fights. And my biggest takeaway from this fight is Belal Muhammad is the best welterweight on the planet, and Belal Muhammad beats Shavkat Rakhmonov and Garry. Garry was fighting his best when he was fighting at his own pace, when he was starting the interactions, when he was throwing his combinations, when he was backing up Shavkat. When Machado Garry, sorry, I'm on like zero sleep. I'm like stumbling over my words. When Machado Garry was letting Shavkat fight at his pace, Shavkat was mixing in the takedowns, mixing in the grappling. His shot selection was better. He was landing cleaner, but when Machado Garry was fighting at his own pace, he looked better than Shavkat. He was landing more. He wasn't scared of the takedown. And that's why I think Belal Muhammad beat Shavkat, because Belal is a guy who fights at his own pace super well. That Leon Edwards performance was phenomenal. His striking defense improved a ton. I just think Belal Muhammad goes into this Shavkat fight, fights at his own pace, stays somewhat safe, and maybe wins by a decision, but I just wasn't overly impressed with Shavkat. His striking looks solid, like it always does. He looked fast, but when he can't mix in the takedowns, his striking looked one-dimensional and readable at some point, so I'm not too overly impressed with Shavkat Rakhmonov. And I remember that debate of who's better, Shavkat or Chimaev. No, that's not a debate, people. That's not a debate. Shavkat is very good, but he isn't insane at one thing. And with regards to Ian Machado Garry, he is still very good. He brought Shavkat to a decision. So if you want to look at one positive note, yeah, but it's the grappling and the clinch game. The clinch game won Shavkat Rakhmonov this fight because he's very good with his elbows, very good with his knees, and he's just very good at holding his opponents up against the cage because he is so strong, so big. He looked bigger than Ian Garry in this fight. So I think the clinch game really won him this fight. The control time just gave him the edge over Ian Garry. So Shavkat's definitely fighting for the title next. With regards to Ian Garry, maybe you could give him like a Gilbert Burns if Gilbert Burns isn't retired. Maybe Jack Della Maddalena, Kamaru Usman if you're very lucky. But there are definitely a lot of avenues Machado Garry can go. Get a bounce back win, and then you're looking up to the title, maybe a number one contenders fight once again. But overall, not super impressed with both guys, and I think UFC 310 kind of showed me that Belal Muhammad is the best welterweight on the planet, and I will be picking Belal Muhammad to beat Shavkat Rakhmonov. Like the main event, not too many talking points with regards to this fight. Let's move on to the featured fight on the main card. Oh, my computer just turned off. Ciryl Gane versus Alexander Volkov. Oh my God. Holy shit. That's one of the worst robberies I've ever seen. Ciryl Gane wins by decision. No. I thought it was abundantly clear that Ciryl Gane won round 1, and then Alexander Volkov won round 2 and 3. 3 being very clear to Volkov. He just held him there the entire time. Ciryl Gane in round 1 had some control time himself, got into more advantageous positions, and was landing some strikes on the feet. I think rounds 1 and 2 or 1 and 3, are very clear. And I also think round 2 was really clear. Volkov hurt Volkov hurt Volkov. No, Volkov hurt Gane with that spinning back fist. He was able to get to control time. He was landing more strikes on the feet. And somehow people think Ciryl Gane landed more on the feet, was hurting Volkov. No, man. This was such a clear win for Alexander Volkov. I don't know how you mess it up that bad. And this just fucks up the heavyweight division even more. The division's already screwed, but now we're going to screw it up even more because if Alexander Volkov got the judge's decision, okay, easy. You give him a Tom Aspinall rematch maybe, or you throw him in the next title fight. You don't really know what's going on, but it's quite clear, right? It's uncertain, but it's clear at the same time. And now you're like, can you even give Volkov that opportunity because he technically lost? It's just weird, man. And the first fight between these two guys, Ciryl Gane won quite easily. He was the faster guy, landing cleaner strikes on the feet. And it's kind of weird because it felt opposite in this fight. Ciryl Gane did not look himself. His defensive grappling was maybe a little bit better, but it wasn't good. Him on the feet was very poor. Gane was poor on the feet. He looked slow. He looked like he didn't really know what he was doing. He didn't look like that athletic heavyweight that we know Ciryl Gane is. And Volkov just stayed on the outside, used his range, pitter-pattered, Gane up for the majority of the fight, and then used his control time and used his grappling when he needed to. So I thought it was a clear win for Alexander Volkov. That's bad, man. That's really bad because who does he fight next? Does he fight I'm not too sure, Curtis Blades in a rematch? This dude's fought almost every heavyweight. We really should have gotten the Tom Aspinall rematch or something like that because he deserves a title fight now. But technically he lost. So it's weird. And in terms of Ciryl Gane, man, this guy has so much potential. So much potential. This dude could have been the greatest heavyweight of all time. But he's just not taking advantage of it. And it just seems like he doesn't really care enough. He doesn't care enough. So does Ciryl Gane fight a Sergey Pavlovich? Curtis Blades? It's a weird one. It's a really weird one. The judges just completely screwed him over. Yeah. Somewhat of a boring fight, you could say, besides the second round. Moving on to the final fight we'll talk about. Kind of a shorter video in today's episode. I kind of wanted to just get it out there. Not too much crazy editing because I wanted to get it out there. so you guys can watch. Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling. Evloev wins by decision. It is so disrespectful that the UFC just threw it at the bottom of the prelims, in the middle of the prelims, tried to bury it under so many fights. Kron Gracie got a pay-per-view spot. Movsar Evloev and Aljamain Sterling didn't. Unbelievable, man. This was an incredible fight. Incredible fight. This was one of the craziest grappling fights I've ever seen in UFC history. The transitions, the scrambles, each guy's ability to float on top of the other was incredible. At the end of the day, Evloev wins 29-28 on, I think, all scorecards. This was a fight of inches, man. A fight of inches, and Evloev just proved he was just a little bit better. His striking was a little bit cleaner, and overall, his transitions were just better on the ground. He was able to get on top a little bit more. Aljamain Sterling had moments, man. Both guys had moments. It was such a unique fight. It was a unique fight to watch, and Evloev just got the edge. He just got the edge. Who does he fight next? Maybe a Diego Lopez. I think if the UFC are going to do Topuria versus Volkanovski 2, you do Diego Lopez versus Movsar Evloev 2. Winner fights for the title. It's very, very clear in my opinion. And maybe for Aljamain Sterling, Josh Emmett, that could be a solid fight. I'm going to do my fights to make tomorrow. You'll see that video tomorrow. Aljamain Sterling and Josh Emmett are next to each other in the rankings. That's a big fight for Aljamain Sterling. You can promote that fight, throw it on main card. That's a dangerous fight for Aljamain Sterling as well because his striking defense isn't incredible. And I'm also a little bit sick. I feel quite lightheaded, so if I'm kind of fumbling over my words, give me a damn break. But damn, that's a dangerous fight for Aljo because his striking defense is meh, and you don't want to get hit against Josh Emmett. You don't want to get hit against that man. So maybe you run that fight. It's a big step for Aljo in terms of the comeback. And Movsar stays undefeated, man. He needs to be fighting in a number one contenders fight or for the title next. Let me know what you guys think of UFC 310. The prelims were sick. The main card kind of disappointing. Like, subscribe, do all that. Follow my TikTok. Links will be in the description. Peace out.